What is up, people of the internet, people of Earth? Welcome to the Belvista Studios Show. Today I have a special guest, Troy. Troy is an epic learning designer. And I want to recognize you, Troy, because the things that I appreciate about you is your openness to solve problems in the most effective way. And I think that comes through that is creativity and innovation. But I think that you just think outside the box because you're always putting what's actually going to help someone that is undertaking my learning better. And from that come all these kind of solutions that we traditionally aren't used to just yet. So I think you're doing really cool in that space. And also I think in terms of your generosity to the industry, you've been putting out tutorials and stuff and how you've done some of your storyline things. And I know those tutorials are not just something that you can whip up in half an hour. They take a lot of thought when you're putting a blog behind it, you're recording, even to create it in the first place. And I know even my team, we've done them, to learn as well. So very grateful for the generosity and the opportunity that you provide to others to learn, because you're experimenting and you're creating really cool and creative just interactions and motions within storyline that I just think is really nice. So welcome to the Belvista Studio Show.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. It's really great to be here and just chat all things kind of learning design and share ideas and see what we come up with.
Well, you're the one coming up with things. So lucky for myself and the viewers, we just get an insight into, I guess, some things that you're working on. That's the intention of the show and the process you took to get there. So if I go back to you being creative and innovative, I know that one example that you have ready for us is Glide apps. So I'll let you share your screen and take us through, but tell us what it is and how we can use it and all these interesting, curious things that you've got for us.
Yeah, sure. So before I share my screen, I'll just kind of quickly just talk to, I guess, what Glide Apps is, and then I'll show one that I'm currently working on building from scratch, and then I'll show a completed Glide app. So for those who don't know what Glide Apps is, it's a tool that connects to Google Sheets. So you use Google Sheets as, lack of a better term, kind of your database, your content management system. You fill out your Google Sheet, and then Glide Apps pulls that content through to create a web application. So the thing to be aware of is Glide Apps don't publish at the moment to the App Store. They are hosted in the web. Some people may say that that's a negative. I look at it as it's a positive because a user doesn't need to actually download anything. All they need to do is go to a QR code or a web address. They don't need a mobile phone. They can actually view it on a website. So it's multi-device. So I think it's really neat. Glide are constantly building new features into their tool. There's a really proactive community, kind of like the Articulate eHeroes community. So if you don't really know what you're doing, or you're just looking for inspiration, or learning from other people, you can go in the community. But kind of like any tool or anything I try to do, my number one recommendation for everything and anything in life is just get curious and get creative. The worst thing that will happen is you might just break it and you can reload. And you can just start again.
I like it. Control Z.
Yeah, so look, I'll share my screen and I'll just first talk about one that I'm kind of playing around with at the moment. Yep. And then I'll show a completed version.
Cool. One of the things you just mentioned there while it's loading was around, the data being on Google and on the internet and that. What are your, I guess privacy is an issue. If you put someone's email up there, have you got any kind of things that you can say to clients or stakeholders to make them feel comfortable about where the data is stored?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So because you're putting it into Google, or so Glide is connecting with Google, all the data is secure in the Google kind of security platforms, which are really, obviously, it's Google, very secure. One of the things, and look, I'll quickly jump ahead. Go away. Let me get rid of this. Yep. Hide the air panel. I can't get rid of the toolbar.
We want to see all of your things.
Here we go. Okay. So one of the things I was creating is an app in Glide Apps. What I wanted to do is, because I was collecting certain information from users, I was aware that there would be things like privacy, cookies, disclaimer notices, all that kind of stuff. So what I wanted to do in this example is, instead of having the user go straight to the app, they would first come to this landing page. And on the landing page down the bottom, I put in some frequently asked questions. And then there's some other things they need to know. So your terms and conditions, your privacy policy, disclaimer notice. But because it is hosted or by Google, it is pretty secure in the Google framework.
Yeah.
I have had the question come up before about using Google in my professional capacity, so with my full-time employer. As long as I could assure them that the information would be secure in Google, and any information that we were collecting was kind of covered in some form of the terms and conditions or privacy notice, they were totally okay with it. So yeah, cool. It's always going to be something that people will ask about, but I think from the research I've done, at least, and from what I understand about Google, is it's quite secure. If you are using it in a professional capacity, I would probably recommend that you use not your own personal Gmail account, as I'm using at the moment. So you'd want to have something like, I don't know, Kim at Belvista Studios at gmail.com, kind of something like that.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is, if it's under your personal email account and then you leave said organization, at least the organization still has that email and they can change the password and such.
Yeah.
Or if it's your personal email, then you can still log in.
I can see what you're up to too. No, I like that. I really like how you've got this landing page and then it's giving that information, because I know even random apps, I'm like, oh, do I want to sign up to this straight away? And where is my data going and things like that. So I like that you've created a landing page to kind of debunk those fears and then make me feel comfortable to jump in and just go embrace the experience that's been created.
Yeah. So look, there's nothing stopping a user going directly into the app, but I was aware that some people may first be, what is this? They don't have these questions like, what am I even doing? So I was trying to treat this as a bit of an experience that, okay, let's kind of, what's the word? Massage them kind of into the experience first. So by giving them this landing page, they could read about it first, then they could go and get the app and get in. To sign up for the app, it does ask you that you need to confirm that you agree with terms and conditions, disclaimer, privacy policy, that kind of thing. So yeah, trying to massage them in so that by the time they're in, they're comfortable.
Yeah. That's cool. All right, go back and show us your stuff, because I feel like everyone close your eyes again, because I like ruined the wow factor and started talking. So holy shit, man, this is like beautiful. I love first impressions, so fresh. It's freaking awesome.
Yeah. So this will become, and it is becoming, and I'll show it in a moment, a Glide app that I'm working on. The branding, the name, everything is fictitious. It's all just made up. But I wanted to create an app for a makeshift company that they could have an app and send it to a new employee once they've been given their position. And this would act as an onboarding app. So, giving them that love before they even step into the office. It's an app that they can, create their profile. They would be able to interact and understand perhaps who the company is more that they've just been employed by, potentially complete courses or read about information, understand an office. So perhaps there might be, like a campus kind of map that they could interact with to learn the office. I think we've all been there in a first day job and you're walking into an office and you have no idea who anybody is. You don't know where anything is. It can be very awkward. So yeah, just trying to see what I could create. And yeah, the brand is kind of this. I drew inspiration from an actual cruise company, but I've changed everything and kind of made up my own. But I wanted it to be this cruise company that had this kind of quirky, retro, vibrant kind of vibe to it. So that's kind of where I'm going.
I like it. It's really beautiful.
Yeah. So this is just a screenshot of like some demo stuff that I was designing and trying to play around with.
Yep. What did you create them in, your designs?
Yeah, so I made those just in a program called Gravit Designer, which is a free version, kind of like Adobe Illustrator, but it's free. I don't have a personal subscription to Adobe Illustrator. So at the moment, I'm using some free tools to kind of get around that at the moment.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so that's what I made those in, and then just exported those out as PNGs, and yeah.
And your assets, like the logo and stuff and the text, did you create that from scratch and the icons, or had you grabbed them from something like FreePic and then imported them into Gravit Designer?
Yeah, sure. So everything on the landing page on the far left, all this I've created from scratch. So I found a font style that I really liked that kind of had this, I'm going to say nautical vibe to it, but it wasn't. I didn't want something overly kind of cliche. So I found some fonts that really kind of worked for me that I wanted to use. These illustrations in the middle, I found those on FreePic. So actually it's stories.freepic. And yeah, everything else is just text and kind of shape elements that I've put together.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so once I kind of mapped out, like an e-learning course, you want to do a mood board, a storyboard, whatever your process is. So this was me kind of trying to get a feel for the look, the colors, it is quite a bright yellow. Would that bright yellow work? That kind of thing. So once I started to do that, I then jumped into Glide. So this is actually Glide at the moment. There are some other tools I use. One of them is called Cloud & Dairy. And Cloud & Dairy is an media repository. So you can upload all your images in there. Most of the time I'm just uploading just images as they are, but I have done some tutorials in the past where you can use Cloud & Dairy to manipulate and edit those images without an image editor. So you could apply filters, you can crop them, reshape them, like you can do everything kind of in Cloud & Dairy. So I prefer to use that in case once I've uploaded something, I'm like, oh, actually, I do want to change how that image looks.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, so this is kind of the working app that I've been working on trying to build and see, can I actually build it and do what I want to do in it? So the idea is that they would come, this new employee, so Kim, you're the new employee, you've got this new job with Sunset Voyages, trying to give you some love and make you feel really energized. So about your new job. So we'll go in, you can create a profile.
Yep.
What's your name? So Kim. What's your address? So at the moment, I've set everything that you have to actually enter details so that you on. So
yeah, cool. Very good.
Your street example.
How did you know?
I'll have to upload a random image. I don't know what this is, but yeah.
Hopefully it's G-rated.
It's a random image I've got sitting around. While it's uploading, the thing I really like about Glide is because it's hosted in the web, you can do some code elements with it if you are comfortable with code. You don't have to. Out of the box, they look pretty slick, and I'll show you a version where I've done a tiny bit of coding in it, and I'll show you what that looks like.
Okay, cool.
The version we're looking at now, though, has quite a lot of code in it because I was trying to really get the look and feel to be what I wanted it to be. So on the right-hand side, let's minimize that for a second. On the right-hand side, you can see all the different components. As I move my mouse down, you green button, little green indicator going down. And you might see some of them, so this rich text here, I've got code in there. Or I've got code here. Majority of the code I've used is just to change the font styles. But I have done some further coding to apply some different style colors to different elements. So this gray box here,
yeah.
If I was to remove this code, it would just look like white as it looks now.
Yeah.
And just thinking from a user perspective, if I'm saying tap here or take or upload a photo, you know, the user might actually click on that writing, which isn't going to do anything. They need to click on this gray box.
Yeah.
So I wanted to change some of the styles in there. So just to change how things look.
With the code, is that, I'm sure on the, well, that's why I'm asking, so I'm not sure. The code snippets that you're grabbing, is that something you can get from the Glide community that people like, as in you just have to copy and paste as opposed to learning how to do like the open bracket thing, then this and close bracket, and then what's next?
Yeah, for sure. So technically, yes and no. So technically, Glide don't support using code in their apps. The reason for that is that they may release a new update or change something, and meaning if you had used code, that code could then be broken. So depending on what you're doing and how much code you're using, you do run the risk that if they change something in the core functionality of the app, that code is then kind of null and void. However, saying that, a lot of the code snippets are available through the Glide Apps community, and people are constantly uploading different code snippets and stuff. So it is kind of like you're warned not to use it. However, a lot of people do. And I guess you could look at it, the way I look at it is, it would be the same as Articulate Storyline or Articulate Rise, Adobe Captivate if you use those tools. You know, you can use code to change and manipulate things how you want it to look, but there is always that risk that that company may change something. So you just got to kind of be mindful of what you're doing and how fundamental is that code piece to the functionality of the app, and what is the likelihood of that potentially changing in the future.
Yeah, thank you. That's really good tips.
Yeah. So if I enter just a random name, so I'm just going to write like Troy, this will be me.
He was such a good guy recruiting me to Sunset Voyages.
Yeah, so once you've kind of made your profile, you then come in here to the home screen. If I uploaded an actual image, but I just uploaded like a texture background, your image would be there, your name. You can click on your profile and, you know, change your profile. That's kind of where I'm up to at the moment, but just play around with different ideas and things to see what is actually doable. This app, given that I am using a lot of code in the background of it to change things, will just become like a bit of a, I don't know, like a showpiece example. There will actually be no, it actually won't go kind of out into the real world and be used by a potential company.
Yeah.
This is just kind of me getting excited and kind of playing, seeing what can be done. But yeah, that's kind of a work in progress kind of app.
With is there templates already in Glide? So someone could just go, hey, I want this kind of layout, and then adapt it. So there is, you're nodding. Yeah, cool. That's awesome. Yeah. And what about like if you were to add a new element on screen there, how would you do something like that? I just want to see how, don't change your project if it's going to break it. Although you can just, reload it and then Control Z. But yeah, is it hard to get new elements? I'm just wondering about the functionality of the tool for someone that's never looked at it before. It doesn't look overwhelming. I've seen other programs. I'm like, ugh. This one's just kind of like click and something's going to happen, I'm assuming.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll just quickly go to your first question. Yes, templates. So, you can kind of search through the category. In the template store, people sell their templates, so you can buy them, or you can find ones for free. Once you've found one that you want, so let's just say this mobile restaurant, hypothetically, we want to use this one. We can just copy that into our own personal Glide App account, and then kind of go away and make it our own, change words, images, etc. And then you're kind of good to go. That's how I began using Glide, and I'm sure it's probably how everybody would begin using any tool. I learn best by re-engineering things, so I like to kind of get a completed product and then pull it apart and understand, oh, okay, this button does that kind of thing. So yeah, for sure, there's hundreds of templates. People can just come in. It's free to have an account with Glide. So yeah, you can just create an account under your Google, your Gmail account, and then yeah, go from there and start kind of playing around. But in terms of how easy it is, like, let me show you. So I'm just jumping now into the Google Sheet that sits behind the app. So if I come, this is, yeah, the Google Sheet, as I said. Each tab down the bottom here represents a new page or a new tab in the app. So we have the home, which is obviously the home, the profiles section. So these are the profiles and me just kind of diddling around and playing and checking things.
Yeah.
When we were in the onboarding part, we were entering our name. It was dumping the information onto this sheet. So we can see here's Kim here, and she was recruited by myself.
Very cool. You got some friends in high places there, it seems.
And I mean, I'm just playing around.
Not real data. Please don't contact these people.
But yeah, if I wanted to add, like, so let's just add onto home, insert to the right. Let's just say, I don't know. So we'll just add some text. So your first row is always going to be what it is. So you might have an image, you might have an email, a link, text, like whatever it is. The following row, so in this example, number 2, and you can keep going all the way down, like that's totally up to you. This is where you would just write in your text, so whatever it is. If it's an image, you want to upload your image into something like Cloud and Dairy, get the URL for that image, and then pop the URL in here. So if I click on this, it may not work outside of the app. No, it won't work. So that image URL would be the image that's showing up above your kind of profile picture, which is pretty much just a black square with like the logo for Sunset Voyages.
Yep.
So yeah, you just kind of keep going in here and adding in all your data.
Yep.
When you come back, go away. Put that down there. when you come back into Glide, it will recognize, so as it has here, that there's new information. So you can just go, yes, I want to pull in that information. And then in Glide, if we go to the plus up the top, and let's just go, because I know that we entered text. So if it was an image, you'd want to go to image. If it was a YouTube video, you'd want to go to video. You know, you kind of just select what it was. So what did you put in? So in this case, it was text. The data is referring to that column in Google. So
very clever.
Text, so it'll just be text.
Yeah.
And you can change the style. So is it, you know, how big do you want it? Do you want it to be all caps? Do you want it centered? And if we go out, I'll just move it. So if I move it up the top here, it's not there. It's not there. So sometimes if you, okay, I remembered why. So the theme I'm using at the moment is technically a black background. However, I've coded it so that it's a white background.
Right.
Because it has a black background, that means the default text color is going to be white. So I just need to change the text color. So let's just copy this code. And here, ooh, I can't do it. I'll explain what I've done in just a second.
Take your time.
It work? Yeah, okay, here we go. So in Glide, there's two main text types. So you have basic text, which is normal kind of what you see, kind of what you get text, or you have what they call rich text, which is text that you can use code in. So you can code things. So you could use like your open brackets and B for bold. So if you wanted to bold that particular text or whatever, you can just write, if you go to custom, if you go to custom, you can just write your text in here. But if you want, you can also code and do all your text directly in your Google Sheet. So what I've just done is I had my random gibberish that I wrote. And I copied over the previous code that I was using. So we have H3, which is for heading 3, so the bigger text. And then our font color and the hex code for that font color. And now we have that random gibberish that I've
That's cool.
Obviously, you know, as I said, this app that I'm making at the moment that we're looking at, I'm doing a whole bunch of things behind the scenes to change things. But it is really easy. You just kind of use your Google Sheet to put in your text, your links, that kind of stuff. And then it would all pull through into Glide.
That's cool.
I'm just overcomplicating things by using code.
No, it makes sense, and following you is like easy as well. One thing I want to ask is around the images. So do you have to have your images to the right size, for example, for it to come through all right? So all your editing would be happening before you put it up on something like Cloudinary.
Yeah, so good question. Let me grab a image. So these images here, so I've got 4 URLs to images. And at the moment, these are these images here.
Yeah, cute.
So let's just grab this Our Story one. So I'm assuming it's going to be this first one. I'm just going to copy this URL and go back to the home. So I'll just write new image. We'll pop that in there. So this is the image itself. It is advisable to, you know, design your things to the right specs. so to the right heights and widths and things of the app. So the width for Glide is around about 600 pixels width. The height, really, that's kind of based on really what you want it to be. If you want a gigantic image, you can kind of do that. Now that I've copied that image in, so yes, we want to build this in, let's pop it in. And I'll go, let's put it in. So it was an image. And here's the image here.
Nice. Yeah, cool. And if it wasn't quite right how it displayed, say the O was cut off or something, you just keep re-editing it and then uploading it there, and then it'll keep updating for you until you get it where you're happy.
Yeah, so it depends on how wrong it has imported. If it is, drastically wrong, you have to go back to the drawing board and fix that. But up here under design, they do have some kind of like things that you can use.
Oh, cool.
If I change it to the 3.1 or 3.2.
Yeah, that's great.
All of that. So you can change it. I guess it just depends on how wrong you want it. And that will take trial and error. And yeah, it's trial and error. You'll eventually kind of get the hang of, okay, my images kind of have to be this height, this width kind of thing.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
That's all right. So this is kind of this app that I'm building. Watch this space. I'm just kind of playing around and seeing what can and can't be done. I love kind of like what you were saying before. I love, I guess, innovation, trying new things out, getting creative, seeing how far I can push tools, if I can break them, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So at the moment, I have some free time up my sleeves. So this is kind of my project for the next week. Trying to do. So watch this space, and I'll kind of report back. I'll probably make like a lessons learned video or a blog post, something like that of how I went in it. But I'll show you, I'll jump in and show you another one I've made that is kind of fully built out. And feel free to let me know if you have any questions.
Yeah, well, I'm going to put the links into all the resources and stuff in the description, but where can people go to watch your space in terms of the tutorials and that you share?
Yeah, sure. So if they just head over to my website, so troyashman.com, under my blog section, that's where I just put all my tutorials. Some of the tutorials are just a video, depending on what it is. Other videos will have code and steps and what you actually have to do to get that output. Just have a look and see how you go.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right.
It's really good as well. I've followed some of them before. They're really good.
Thank you. So this is another app that I made. So quick background was that I live in an area in Sydney, which is kind of relatively new. So it's out here at Sydney Olympic Park. There's some cool kind of Facebook groups for the community on Facebook. But over time, I noticed that a lot of people were, kind of putting into the Facebook group, like, where's the local bar? Or who knows a local electrician or a justice of the peace, something like that. So I kind of thought, and when I built this was early on in March, and I just got stood down from my position. So I had a lot of free time, was kind of bored and wanted to check out Glide and see what I could do. So I thought there was an opportunity there to kind of solve a real life problem, but also an opportunity for me to kind of flex my muscles, so to speak, and see what I can create. So what I did was I made an app called Point Guide. I made an app called Point Guide, and the idea is that all the locals in the area, if they wanted to, could sign up for the app. It's completely free. They can use it kind of, I guess, like a bit of a TripAdvisor, or a Wikipedia. They can go through and find new local, I'm calling them faves, but new local restaurants, new businesses, new whatever it might be. Or they could share their own fave. So if it wasn't on there and, you know, Kim, you really like going to, I don't know, whatever bar or cafe or whatever, you could share that.
Yeah. It's likely an ice cream parlor, just saying. So hopefully you have one of those.
There is no ice cream parlor around.
Oh, won't be moving there. That's really cool. So you can do it, but then you can share it with others. That's amazing.
Yeah, so I thought, you know, like where I live is kind of really cool. There's a lot of parklands and stuff like that. So, you know, I kind of wanted to promote that, get outdoors, the great outdoors kind of thing. So if we go in to the great outdoors, for example, you could select, do you want to go to a park? Do you want to go on a walk? Or do you want to find some sights to see? So if we go sights to see, you know, a little bit of copy kind of acknowledging the traditional owners of the land and the history of the area that we live in. And, you know, it does have a very rich history. The idea is that over time, the community would add things in. So they would add their own recommendations and there would be more and more and more kind of in here.
Yeah.
So if we click on this shipwreck, so it gives an image of what it is, where it is, you can add it to your fave, so you can come back to it at a later point in time. A bit of history, so, you know, this ship, for example, is from World War II, yada, yada, yada. And then where it is on the map.
Wow.
And then any other info, so if there is a website that people need to go to or whatever. Yeah, and then pretty much everything is the same. So if we go eating out and let's go, I don't know, let's go for burgers. I want to get a really good burger. So there's a place called Burger Point. Now I'm getting hungry. Bit of information about the restaurant, where it is, and then any other information.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So this is live in the world at the moment.
Yep. Yep.
And how is it going?
So I haven't yet launched it out to the local community. I was prepared, so I prepared everything to go out, and then right as I went to go do it, Sydney was kind of teetering on the edge of a second COVID wave.
Right.
And given that this is very much promoting getting out and exploring and, you know, going to restaurants and that kind of thing, I just thought maybe right now is not the right time. We don't want to be promoting going outdoors when so it's all sitting there waiting to go. I'm just waiting for the right moment. But yeah, I think it'll be a huge hit, not only with the community in terms of like individual people, but also businesses. As in, you know, businesses have just been, you know, it's been a pretty crap year for everybody really, but, you know, businesses have lost income, you know, all that kind of stuff. So I see this as being an opportunity to also help local businesses. Yeah, and hopefully get people out and exploring.
That's really cool. I see this as a great opportunity. Like, if I think about workplace learning, everyone's always talking about community of practices. So here you're asking your community to contribute their favorites and recommend to others, which is similar to what a community of practice would do in the workplace. How much admin do you think you would need to do for this particular app? Or do you think it will be mostly self-sufficient and you'll just fix it maybe if it breaks? And how would you know that?
Yeah, so the concept with this app is that it could also be duplicated and then white labeled to a potential business that they could use in-house in their own organization or for another community or whatever. They're behind the scenes. So if I go, let me jump into it. Yeah, so this is the same app, but in Glide, so like the builder view of Glide. Down the bottom, we have some additional, we have an additional button. This button is linked to my email address. So what it's saying to Glide is that if troyashman@gmail.com is the logged in user to the app, show this button. That can be duplicated for as many people as I want. So if I, meet locals in the community and they want to get involved in the admin kind of side of things, I can add them in so that they can also be admin of it if I like. But say for a business, the same kind of thing. You could have 4 or 5 managers kind of being the admin people for the app. So the idea would be that a local would go submit a recommendation. They would fill out this form, so telling me, is it a restaurant? Is it, what is the category of what you're recommending? Is there an uploaded image? Tell us about the recommendation. So I don't know, Kim's Ice Cream Parlor has been serving ice cream for the past 5 years, whatever kind of thing.
Yep.
The neighborhood, so where exactly it is, so on and so forth. They fill out that. Once it's been filled out, it would show up here admin to be able to approve or decline. I'll look at this, but it's not an actual recommendation. But all they would do is read through all the information and decide, yep, I want to approve that, and hit the switch, and Glide will reconfigure and send this new recommendation out into the world.
Wow, that's cool.
So kind of back to your original question, yes, there's a bit of admin, but I've tried to make it that it's, I guess, as quick and simple and easy as it could be for what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Because if they're written and there's no spelling errors and the photo is good, you're literally just hitting approve and the work's done. So you could just schedule it every week or every fortnight or month to go in there and approve things. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. So in this app, if I do end up releasing it, I've already put in, I guess, some terms and conditions that if you do propose a recommendation, it may take up to 14 days to be approved.
Yeah.
Just to kind of...
you're setting expectations up front. That's very clever that you've thought to do that.
Yeah. So that's kind of like that's the main functionality of the app. I also was thinking about how can it be a little bit more than just, I guess, a wiki or some kind of thing. So I wanted to create an element of what I would call gamification or a scavenger hunt idea. So I created this point challenge idea. And I think this would be really unique in something as in like a professional capacity, where maybe it is a face-to-face training event and you want to quiz people. So I'll show you what it is and I'll kind of come back and explain. The idea of Point Challenge is to get people out and explore the neighborhood. So if you come in, you can go down to challenges. So we go challenge. There are currently, 5 challenges. So let's just go this one. So challenge number 4. So first it shows that nobody has done it at the moment, which is fine. There's a little bit of like a cryptic clue or some information about what it is. So pretty much located in Sydney Olympic Park, blah, 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 blah. There's public artwork, go and find it. So when the person has gone and found it, they could then come in and go complete the challenge.
Yeah.
They would take a photo of said location or item or whatever it might be. So it might be like a selfie with them at this, whatever it might be. They upload it. They can add in a caption and tell us, did they like it? Did they get lost or whatever?
I freaking love this. This is so cool.
And then they hit submit. When they hit submit, this icon would go kind of like an amber, like a waiting kind of thing.
Wow.
The admin can then go in and review. So has this person really done the challenge, or are they just being dodgy and has taken a photo?
No one would ever do that.
Once it's been approved, it goes green. If I click on this, we can see myself and this other person has completed this challenge.
So cool.
Completed the challenge down the bottom. If I go players and leaderboard, yeah, so this is ranked by highest to lowest. So I've completed 3, Sue has completed 2, Kylie's completed 1. There's all these other people. And you can view the feed, so you can see everybody's photos that have ever been uploaded. So these are just some random photos I was uploading in dummy kind of profiles to test, was it working right? So yeah, that's kind of
amazing.
I see, you know, like in my professional capacity, I work for an airline, so we usually do face-to-face training events where we get people coming into our office and we do face-to-face. We then, subject to what it is, get the opportunity sometimes to take them onto an aircraft. So we've taught them about the theory about the aircraft or the product. Let's go and see the aircraft and have a familiarization. You can touch and feel and whatnot. I see this concept being really cool, where it could be a scavenger hunt on the plane.
Amazing.
Take a photo of that business class seat. Take a photo of, I don't know, like whatever it might be. Like, you know, we'll tell you what to do. Take a photo, and the first person to complete it or whatever wins whatever.
So good.
So yeah, that's kind of the app. There's, you know, what's on, there's a calendar kind of thing of what's coming up. There's obviously nothing at the moment, so it is what it is.
That's really cool.
Map, so all the things that are loaded in here, but yeah, that's kind of a full working example. There's a little bit of code in this just to kind of make some of these headings a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
And the only reason was because the default sizing in Glide, I just felt for a heading was a little bit too small.
Yeah.
Otherwise, this is purely built-in Glide. There's not much coding to it. Yeah.
Wow. Well, it's beautiful. And the things that you've thought about for this particular solution are just, you're making people want to go back and use it again and again. And I think that's really effective. How long did that take you to get to where it is now, roughly?
Yeah, it probably took me about maybe a month or 2. The initial version of the app looked very different. So I built the entire thing, and then I don't know if any other designers are like me, but I built something and then I sleep on it for a couple of days or weeks, and then I came back and I personally thought it looked like a dog's breakfast. I was like, oh, I hate the look, so I kind of rebuilt it. But the core functionality and stuff, it probably took me about a month working on it, just a couple of hours a day.
Yeah, so not full time for a month. It was more like kind of like a side project.
Yeah. So some days I might have only played around with it for half an hour. Other days I might have sat there for a couple of hours. But yeah, this was me very much. I've used Glide before this example, but I've never used Glide in such an application like this. So when I've used it before, they were probably very, they had a very specific reason for what the app was being used for. And I hadn't thought about things like user profiles, recommendations, all that. So yeah.
Very cool. Okay, so we've spoken about inductions. This one is a, like go explore a location or get to know something better. What other applications have you seen being effective, or should we be thinking about for our training? to use Glide for?
Yeah, sure. So I can't show them because they're confidential, but two examples that I've used them for was in the airline that I work for. So a really good example was that there was a trade event that happened very early this year where we got to travel around to all the different states. And it was a bit of an expo. So if you've ever been to like a travel expo, there's 100 different kind of travel companies. Very same thing, but it was for trade. So it was for travel agents only.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I guess, speed dating in a way that we were giving very rapid fire training to travel agents. The issue that I had was, if you've ever been to an expo, you would know that you walk away, or a conference, you walk away with a bit of, you're brain dead. You've been all day, information overload. You're probably walking home with like a show bag full of brochures or information. And I think, let's be honest, a lot of those paper or brochures unfortunately end up in the bin. Then there's other elements such as like sustainability, environmental friendliness, price, like financials, all that kind of thing. So there was a lot of things that we were thinking about in the lead up to this expo event, and how could we get the biggest bang for our buck and ensure that when travel agents walked away from the session, or a week later or a month later down the track, that they would still have some point of reference to get information. So we made a Glide app. We were lucky that we had all their emails before the event, so that we could target them with an email to download the app. And the concept was that it was a bit of an interactive expo booth. They would have the app on their mobile phones. We could talk to them and show them different things. We could upload new information to the app after the event. And then that would become kind of, their brochure, but it wasn't, killing any trees. It was environmentally friendly. And then during the presentation that we gave, there was the option for us to refer them to the app. So we were talking about things and saying, okay, now in the app under section, I don't know, the locker room, whatever it was, find this information. So I think there's a huge potential for us to use Glide apps in face-to-face training. We've also used it in, other face-to-face training, but it was like a full day training session. Events, like big events, kind of like DevLearn, the learning conference. You guys build actual websites, but some training organizations or departments don't have the time or the money or the skill to do that. So Glide is a really good option that you could build a bespoke app and give those learners that kind of I don't know the word, but everybody wants something that's been made for them, right? It's like, oh, there's been time, thought, and effort. So we did something like that where the learners could select breakout sessions in the app. The whole schedule was in there. We uploaded resources like PowerPoint decks that they could follow along with, downloadable PDFs, videos, etc. So
that's cool. So events as well is a good one. And I guess gamifying your face-to-face is a nice one, like giving people that opportunity for further learning, especially I saw your leaderboard in there, like that's pretty cool. I have seen Glide with the chat option as well. And I guess another example would be, to be able to communicate with a specific team. So maybe a team might build one for themselves now with the remote workforce, or if the HR team was going, like we have an admin person sitting there 24/7 or whatever hours they decide. And if you have questions about, your leave or whatever, this is how you can access that information, or some other department or get around the organization. But that just in time, I need information, I don't know how to find it myself, might be really cool as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and that's something I've actually been thinking about kind of as I return to my professional capacity with this airline, this particular airline, and look, it's becoming kind of the norm for a lot of organizations now, is that remote work environment, like you mentioned, all those open plan kind of working spaces where you don't have a specific desk. There is absolutely room to create like a team or a company internal app that teams can use to project manage tools or projects they're building, talk to each other. Yeah, I think there's a lot of room for that, and it's something I've been kind of toying with, that do we build like an internal team app to, I guess, kind of act like our project management tool and our communication tool and everything in one.
Yeah, very cool. Well, for the people watching at home, I do encourage you to experiment with it. It seems like it's a reasonably, I don't know what the word is, that's reasonably efficient yet highly effective tool to create a portfolio piece, because you can see how visually appealing it is. And if you're showing this, like you went and built a full functional thing in that amount of time that you shared, but I guess if you spent 8 hours, you would have a very nice looking piece that you could show as a portfolio piece. So I encourage the people watching to experiment and, you know, go to places like Unsplash and that to get your images, because this is a first impression type thing when you're doing your portfolio, and just, you know, thinking this way for a training solution will just really put you like a little bit with an edge when you're going for interviews and demonstrating how you think about solving training solutions.
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, you know, like jump on, if you haven't used Glide, jump onto the community. There's a big thread at the moment about resources for Glide apps. And there's some people on the Glide community who are making, I guess it's like a repository or a library of all these resources, which is super handy for free images, mock-up programs, code snippets, like everything. So as I said kind of before, just get curious, and the worst thing that's going to happen is you're just going to have to hit Control Z or refresh.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Like, it's really awesome. It's very inspiring. I'm conscious of time, so we've got 3 minutes left in our allocated time. Have you got a hard cutoff that you need to finish? Because I know you got another example that I'm sure people are dying to see if you're available.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm free to stay.
Right, take us through it. Show
Sure.
us what you got.
Okay.
But thank you, that was amazing.
No, all good.
I'm fired up.
So the next thing I was going to talk about is the hot noodle eLearn that I built for the show. So for those that don't know or weren't following, one of the briefs we had for the show was to build a solution surrounding bullying and harassment. I remember in the brief that there were some very specific things that stood out to me, some very key words that were used. And I don't have the brief up at the moment, but there were things like fun, engaging. There was, you know, a relatively young audience who would be completing the learning. And there were some references to mobile and kind of styles or ways those people would potentially engage with content. So they stood out for me. So I built this e-learning example. It's built in a typical storyline, thinking about the learner and those keywords that were, you know, kind of pointed out and their brand. You know, this was the brand that you guys provided us with. It was quite fun and bright, so I kind of wanted to try to use that. And yeah, I made this e-learning example that there's, you know, sound effects. I thought about, you know, the age demographic completing this would want something that they could have on their mobile. So hence why it's in this design as it is. So it could be opened up on a mobile, but if they open it up on a desktop, this is how it looks. yeah, so if anybody hasn't looked at this or hasn't seen this, they can check it out on my website. But I just thought, yeah, maybe we could chat about this because I got a ton of questions about things like the animations, the sound effects, the leaderboard. Like there's a lot kind of going on in this. So
yeah,
wasn't sure if you had any key things you wanted to chat about.
I think it'd be probably good for you to just run us through it in terms of a user and show what you have created as the end result. And what I'm going to say to people is you need to go to troyashman.com because he has the tutorials that demonstrate this. So instead of you repeating how it's all been made, show them the end result, and then those people can go check you out and learn how to do it through their own curiosity and experimentation.
Easy. All right, no worries. So yeah, when they open up the course, they will select they'll select an avatar, they'll pop in their name. I've done that for some personalization, and we're recalling their name at certain points throughout the course. Everybody wants to kind of see their name, and it just makes it more, personal. So that's what I've done there. But given that it is a bullying and harassment course, we've all been there. We've all done that boring HR course that is, practically a static PowerPoint presentation uploaded. And I really did not want to go that route, but I knew that because it is bullying and harassment, there was a level of compliance from a legal point of view for the organisation. I'm not a big fan of locking things down in courses. I like learners to be able to explore their own way. But given that it was a legal matter, I did decide to lock it down. So if you jump into Need to Know, we have the essential kind of information that Hot Noodle, this brand, wants their team members to know. I thought it was really important to cover key core values before even jumping into the legal point of view. So from a company perspective, what does this company stand for and believe in? And then it's backed up by the legal point of view. So we learn about their personal core values, and then we jump into knowing more about the legal. So key definitions, what is defined as workplace bullying and what isn't, what people can do if they are experiencing it, and where they can go for more information. But I guess the hero piece of this, this example is the Become a Hero section. So if we jump in there, so what I've done is, again, understanding the demographic that are completing this course, which, they're generally young people working in some form of a fast food restaurant, university students, high school students, below kind of maybe 30s. I also knew that the majority of them would be doing it on their phone. And I also knew that given the way the world is kind of moving and that kind of thing, that these users would be used to swiping their fingers. So what I mean by that is they are probably either playing games on their mobile phone, scrolling up and down through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or swiping left and right on dating apps and that kind of thing. So I tried to channel some of those things, and I made a bit of a gamification or interaction with gamified elements where the learner has to swipe left or right based on if they think it is or if it is not workplace bullying. So we go in, you have a scenario and you have to swipe left or right. So this is workplace bullying. I wanted to use some micro interactions. So if you watch down here at these right or wrong, I wanted to have like this confetti kind of.
Yeah, that's cute.
Yeah, like effect. if I'll get one wrong so you can see what it looks like if you get it wrong. I think it does the same thing actually. Oh no, you get it wrong, it disappears. Oops, we didn't win. We didn't get it right. So if you got it right, there would be like a badge with some like confetti popping out of the badge. So yeah, that was kind of the idea. I wanted to really design something that would work for that cohort or those learners. You'll see that there's some scores here. There is a leaderboard that is retrieving and pulling data from Google Sheets through JavaScript. So again, understanding that cohort, they're probably playing games. Oh no, I got 30. I want to beat Kim, who got 40. I don't want her to see that I only got 30, so I'm going to go. So those were the kind of things I was channeling and trying to build in. So yeah.
Amazing. It's a beautiful, beautiful example. There's so many amazing things going on there. Like I know even just looking at this screen now, how you've got that faint textured background there when things change, like your feedback and that the rings kind of rise. Those people at home, the tutorials are online on Troy's website to find out how to do them. So amazing sharing there. You've got a lot of things going on there in terms of, you know, the sound effects, how you've done the instructions, how you decided on the game, the swiping, the confetti, the scoring. How did you decide on the mechanics that made up the whole learning experience? How did you plan that? First of all, inspiration and then plan it.
Yeah, wow. Inspiration came from, I guess, looking around at different apps on my phone. So things like how Facebook is designed, or you know, where different menu items are placed, and versus you know, profile things, how buttons are stacked and stuff. So I took a lot of inspiration from just regular kind of apps on the phone. I was very adamant that I wanted this to be a vertical piece. So I knew that real estate being vertical would be limited in comparison to a traditional kind of rectangle or square kind of storyline piece. So I knew that I'd have to be very smart about how I laid things out. And what I ended up trying to do was creating like a grid effect. Everything was just stacked in this thin kind of like this thin area here. And that was kind of where I went from there. Mechanics, the transitions where the rings are coming up from the bottom, they were probably the only animation that I did first. All the other animation, like those little, I'd say confetti, but yeah, let's just say confetti. The confetti, they were all afterthoughts. So I came back afterwards because I knew that when I was building that, let's just get the core thing built, and I can always come back and add those if I had the time.
Yeah.
The leaderboard, because it's built in Google, there's a lot of JavaScript that's running in between the storyline and Google. That was I had to make that decision quite early on to make sure that I had all the variables and all that information set up. But everything else was pretty much built as I went along and as I built.
That's cool. So you looked for basically things that you like as a user out in the world, and then we're like, that would add value to my learning objectives and what I know about my audience. And then you went and played.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Very cool. It's very freaking cool. Yeah. Everyone at home, you need to give some love in the comments to Troy, because I think he's blown us away today in this episode with like exceptional examples of learning and just what's possible to be creative, be innovative. There's so many elements going on. I encourage you to pick one or two and just put them into practice and experiment yourselves, because you can just see, well, I know I can't wait to get back into the tools now. So if it's impacted us in that way, as learning designers, imagine how that would impact our learners. So Troy, you're a legend. Thank you so much for what you've shared today. Appreciate you.
You're welcome. You're very welcome.
Well, thank you everyone for watching. Please share this video with anyone you believe it will add value to. Do give your feedback in the comments. I think it's always really nice to give the recognition to the people that so generously have shared their work. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Belvista Studios Show.